welcome to Main Game. I'm your host Ifa, and in this episode, we have a ton of awesome esports and gaming insights in store just for you. And with me is the one and only Luis Lacon from Kakuchopurei, and he's going to help me further in uncovering the awesomeness of video games, whether you're playing solo, with friends, or against rivals. Isn't that right, Luis?
I mean, that's the beauty of video games. The fact that you can either play by yourself or even with friends or even with people that you might hate.
Okay, Luis, we have so much to talk about later on, but first we're going to go on to our first segment, which is Lowdown. Right, so tell me, Luis, how do you feel about the grassroots scene in competitive gaming in Malaysia?
Well, as someone who followed the Western esports scene since its grassroots, I'm somebody who has always just been a big fan of just watching people game and just play at an extremely high level. I think grassroots really shows people pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into what they're trying to turn from a passion into a form of living. And I definitely see that. That's the beauty of esports. I see it here in Malaysia, especially because, yeah, it's on a small scale, but the passion's still there.
Okay. Are there any big gaming events that you're looking forward, from August onwards?
This year's Valorant Championship, which is essentially Valorant's World Championship, it's on the 6th of August, and after seeing the last international tournament, this one's definitely going to be a must-watch for me.
All right, that sounds grand and exciting. Speaking of which, we are thrilled to hear even more ministers of Malaysia who are into video games. Here's an exclusive interview with Syahredzan Johan, Member of Parliament for Bangi, as he talks about the amateur esports tournaments like LEAP 2023, as well as a short highlight reel of the event that took place in June.
Hello and welcome again. This is Ken of Kakuchopurei, and we are at LEAP 2023 at the Bangi Preliminaries. With me is YB Syahredzan Johan, the MP of Bangi.
Hello.
What do you see when it comes to esports and also the future of esports when it comes to how it can help the youngsters and also the grassroots?
I think what we need to do now is basically to identify the talents that we have, because I'm very, very sure that we have a lot of talent here in Malaysia, and of course specifically in Bangi. But in order to bring out that talent, to identify them, this is where programs such as LEAP would really help, because it gives these people a platform to come forward and for us to identify them, and then maybe give them a platform in the future for them to go on to do better things.
So recently, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Senayo, did mooted a potential plan of introducing esports into the curriculums in school.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good move. I think we need to move on from this whole stigmatization of video games, saying that it creates violent people and so on and so forth. I think there's a lot of good that can come out from video games. So incorporating it into a module where people can actually learn things like competitive spirit, how to train so that you can get better. If we are able to use that as a module, as a way to actually teach our children, our young people about these values, then I think it's a great opportunity, and I look forward to it.
So what are your thoughts on what's required to get parents of children now who are interested in video games to have a better understanding about the scene?
I think we must also not forget, I think when we talk about younger people and so on and so forth, I think we must also remember there's a lot of people who are already my age, 40, late 30s, who are themselves parents, right? and they have gone through the so-called video game boom of the 90s and the early 2000s. So they would actually understand video games better. So if you're talking about people or children who are in school, I think you're talking about a generation like late 30s, 40s and all that. So we have this opportunity to actually introduce or reintroduce them to video games and allow them to allow their kids to go through a process where they can actually learn from esports and video games.
Okay, my really final question is, how confident are you in actually defeating most of these MPs in the games that you are pretty good at?
Okay, if it's Street Fighter 6, I'm pretty confident lah. The rest,
Open challenge, yeah?
Yeah. So any of you MPs who think you can come toe to toe with me on Street Fighter 6, just Street Fighter 6, no other games, please bring it.
All right, that was some great insight from YB Syahredzan Johan, particularly about his time playing 2D fighting games. I know I can fight him for the Street Fighter 6. Anyways, we've talked enough about fighting games in the last episode. So how about we switch forward to other esport genres like multiplayer online battle arenas or MOBAs for short, because saying the longer version is quite a mouthful. So Luis, you said before that you like to dabble in MOBAs. So what's your current pick?
Well, I come from a League of Legends background. While Dota was my first MOBA, I couldn't quite understand the game. When I first began playing it, I think there's just parts about it that I find a bit too complicated. League of Legends was just a lot more easier to grasp from at least a beginner's standpoint.
Okay, so who are your favorite types of heroes and roles in MOBA and why?
Well, I personally prefer playing the role of jungler, which is pretty much on a map in a MOBA, there's usually areas on the map where neutral monsters are usually based, and you slay them to gain experience and gold. Although there's a little bit more to it than that. Another part of the job is also to flank your teammates to help, kill the enemy laners. But it sounds a lot easier than it actually is. It requires a lot of in-game knowledge and understanding about your enemy's positions and also your teammates' positionings as well. So with that, it can be a little bit tricky.
Okay, so I love to get into MOBAs myself too, because hearing you, it makes it very interesting. I rather play with groups than go solo. But for now, we'll be right back after these messages only on Main Game. And we are back. How about we continue on with more awesome history lessons about esports? Last episode, we talked about the first half of esports' long history. In this next segment, we will be talking about the second half from 2000 onwards.
In our first part of recapping the history of esports, we touched upon the 70s and 90s. But it was the 2000s onwards when the subsection of competitive gaming escalated far and beyond. During the 1997 Asian financial crisis, one country, somehow, turned its misfortune around: South Korea. It was during that time when all the PC cybercafes made a couple of ingenious folks create a serious organization that standardizes esports up to today. Enter the Korean Esports Association. Their mission was to standardize and legitimize esports, bringing structure and professionalism to the competitive gaming scene. With their efforts, esports in South Korea began to gain recognition and support from both players and sponsors. In fact, it was the Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism, Park Ji-won, who coined the term esports during the founding ceremony for the Korean Esports Association. In 1998, one game in particular played a pivotal role in catapulting esports to new heights in South Korea. Enter Blizzard Entertainment's StarCraft, a real-time strategy game with a huge sci-fi slant, captivated the nation with its deep strategy, intense battles, and intricate balance between three unique factions. StarCraft became a cultural phenomenon, dominating PC bangs across the country. The game's popularity transcended casual play, and soon professional teams emerged, battling it out in prestigious tournaments. The success of StarCraft as an esport in South Korea caught the attention of the gaming world. Its explosive growth set a new precedent, and other countries, mainly in Europe, took notice and used games like Counter-Strike, as Europeans preferred the first-person shooter genre. Meanwhile, in the United States, a different type of competitive gaming was beginning to make new waves. In the States, first-person shooters had evolved from LAN parties to organized competitions, and one game in particular stood out: Halo. In 2006, the Major League Gaming MLG circuit introduced a televised tournament featuring Halo. Players showcased their skills in intense matches, and the thrilling action attracted a growing fanbase. This marked a significant milestone as it brought competitive gaming into the living rooms of viewers across the nation. This was also the same year a group formed by the top-tier Counter-Strike teams formed a G7 Teams Federation to increase stability in the esports world. This included standardizing player transfers and how communication between leagues and organizations was and still is sorted. In the years that followed, there was also a new kind of game class that spawned from the real-time strategy genre: the multiplayer online battle arena, or MOBA for short. In 2003, a bunch of modders made a modified game called Defense of the Ancients out of the base game of Warcraft 3: Reign of Chaos. That game was the talk of the town for Asia and eventually the rest of the world. In 2009, a company named Riot Games made their own MOBA title with their own in-game engine. It was called League of Legends. These two franchises will eventually take center stage in esports, but not without one major catalyst. 2006 saw the launch of a new live streaming site called Justin TV. Launched by Justin Kan and his team as a platform for live streaming various content, it started as a 24/7 live stream of Justin Kan's life. Recognizing the growing popularity of gaming and esports, Justin TV expanded to include gaming streams, providing a space for gamers to showcase their skills and connect with an audience in real time. The platform quickly gained a dedicated following of both viewers and streamers. Come 2011, Justin TV launches Twitch.tv as a separate entity, focusing solely on gaming-related live streams and creating a vibrant community around it. Everything changed there for esports. We are talking massive, game-changing, whatever adjectives you want to cram in. Twitch became the go-to platform for esports enthusiasts, offering a wide range of content, from professional tournaments to casual gameplay and even interactive chat features. Its user-friendly interface and robust infrastructure allowed millions of viewers to tune in and engage with their favorite esports events and personalities. Esports tournaments streamed on Twitch reached unprecedented levels of viewership, even surpassing traditional television broadcasts. The platform's interactive chat and emotes culture added an extra layer of engagement, creating a sense of community among esports fans worldwide. With Twitch as the leading streaming platform, esports transcended the limitations of television and reached a global audience like never before. How big was it? Find out more in the next episode.
Whoa, that was very insightful. I didn't know the second part of esports history was when streaming really took off. So, Luis, I'm sure you're a fan of watching Twitch streamers and content creators. Who are your personal favorites?
Well, right now, there's two major streaming platforms, which are Twitch and YouTube, so I probably am able to pick one of each. If I actually had to pick one from Twitch, I'd probably go with a British streamer who's currently based out of Japan. He goes by the name CDogVA. He normally just does voice acting and stuff like that, but he just plays pretty much any kind of game. And then as for the other one, it'd probably be Ludwig from YouTube. He's just witty and he banters a lot with his audience. He's quite comedic, so.
All right, thanks a lot, Luis. I'm definitely going to check out those recommendations, okay? So let's take a quick commercial break before we continue back on Main Game. Welcome back, fellow viewers. Now, a lot of professional esports athletes tend to stream as well, right? So, Luis, I want to ask, is it possible to be good at competitive games by just watching streamers and picking up strats from them? If so, why?
Well, I think it is possible to get better at competitive video games just by watching pro players' streams. Although it's not one-to-one with how they may play in a competitive setting in competition, you can definitely pick up some certain things. It's very situational. I don't expect, to get miraculously better aim just by watching a streamer play, so that's how it is.
All right, okay. Thankfully, this final vlog is about a game that doesn't require much aiming, I think. There is a lot of mouse clicking though. Here is a look at the most influential game of the action role-playing game genre, the Diablo series, leading up to the recent fourth main game in the franchise. Does it maintain the level of prestige of past games? Let's find out.
Whenever you're playing a mobile game these days, be it a puzzle title or role-playing game using fantasy characters or superheroes, you notice something: the sounds. That tingling jingle whenever you score a prize, loot, or famous character. The way the gameplay loop is all about clearing stages in hopes of scoring the best prizes, and doing it again if you don't get it. Well, you can attribute that gameplay loop to the action role-playing game genre. That's a subsection of the role-playing game genre. Video game titles where you role-play as heroes of your own creation, level up, progress through adventures, and get buffed in the process. Action RPGs? Well, they do things faster and in real time, and also dish out fancy sound-inducing reward systems like colored loot drops and giant skill trees with power-ups aplenty. Think slot machines, but you're putting in time and growth effort instead of actual money. And the genre comes with simple controls and easy pick-up and play mechanics. The game that started it all? The Diablo series. Made in 1997 by Blizzard North, the then new company found success by introducing people to the world of real-time action RPGs. In Diablo, you play a warrior, a rogue, or a sorcerer as they venture deeper underground to defeat the title character, Diablo. No more waiting and taking turns doing actions and commands. Everything from combat to casting spells happens simultaneously and in real time. The action RPG genre then became huge with the sequel, Diablo 2. It was bigger and better. Diablo 3 came out in 2012 and, well, it wasn't received as well. But Diablo 3 got better over time. Diablo 4 features new additions like a giant continuous open world, new power-up methods for your gear, and online activities that keep you busy. Controls are kept simple. You click on the mouse to move, attack, and pull off awesome skills and spells that cost resources like mana and spirit. You also have a few more keys, like one for dodging, one for using additional skills, and that's it really. Click on enemies, make them die, then survive. Get stronger, get better treasure and equipment, reach higher levels until you're tapped out. These are simple concepts, but all the elements surrounding it makes it all the more enticing to keep playing and trying the same dungeon one more time. Remember all those things we mentioned about sounds and jingles and colored loot, and also the feedback you get from destroying foes? They play a crucial part in triggering that dopamine to keep you going. And it's better with friends, as more people in one party means a slightly higher chance to get better gear and more experience points. In short, Diablo 4 has replay value and a bright future ahead. We're not sure how the game's new updates will pan out, as only a month has passed since its launch in June 2023. But what we already have in this package is incredibly meaty, and is proof that Blizzard is still the pioneer when it comes to making us go back to the action RPG fray and hunt for loot once more.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that little dive into action RPGs and the Diablo series. So, Luis, what is your favorite class in the Diablo series and why? I mean, there's so many to choose from.
Well, I think that, there's a plethora of different classes that you can choose from. There's about 5 at launch right now for Diablo 4 at least, and I personally went with the Necromancer because it's just kind of easy, very laid-back kind of playstyle where, you have your own little minions and they can do all the fighting for you. So you can literally just sit back, relax, and really just enjoy the story and just the graphics and everything else. You don't really have to put too much thought into how to play the game, and it doesn't require too much strategy.
Okay, so what's your personal experience with Diablo series?
Well, weirdly enough, as much of a gamer as I am, Diablo 4 is actually my first Diablo game that I've ever played, and I was a bit iffy going into it. I'm not a big fan of top-down view games, but I think that it's a breath of fresh air for me. I'm an extremely competitive person, so to have a game that I can just turn off my brain and just play is quite refreshing.
Okay, so for each game, maybe different games, they would have to have a specific skill. So as for Diablo series, what kind of skills would you recommend for gamers?
I mean, it doesn't require too much skill. I think just clicking is a lot of it.
Like I said, the mouse clicking?
Yeah, exactly. And, I think it's more time investment rather than skill. I think games like Diablo really require a lot of time to get, a high level and just to grind for good items. I think that's all it really is. For a game like Diablo, the barrier of entry is very, very low.
Okay, other than Diablo, maybe you have other games that, something like similar to Diablo?
Well, yeah, I think, even I made this mistake. I personally thought that it was a kind of game like World of Warcraft, where it's, an MMO RPG, where there's, a bunch of different players and, you can team up and party, and it's just not the case. With Diablo, you can kind of just play it by yourself. So that's kind of where it differs compared to at least other MMORPGs, and that's why they kind of label themselves as an action RPG rather than an MMORPG.
All right, okay. So, Luis, this genre looks interesting. The future did say that the action RPG's barrier of entry is really low. In your perspective, does it get complicated?
Well, like I said, the barrier of entry is relatively low in terms of skill. The only part that it really gets complicated is the lore. And if you really want to get invested into the universe, at least for Diablo, where it's so well built and it's so in-depth. So that's the part where, to me at least, it gets kind of complicated. Other than that, though, the barrier of entry is quite low.
I have one very random question, but for Diablo series, the gamers, for female and male, the percentage would be more male or female, or it's about the same?
I would probably think that it's about 50-50, I think. Diablo is one of those games where, anyone can enjoy it, especially with the the character customization, my apologies. Just the fact that you can play as both, men and women, and just, you can literally be your own character. So I think that customizability is what makes it appealing to just everybody.
3 words to describe Diablo series?
Fun, easy, and time-consuming.
Okay, that's 3 words for Diablo series. Would you recommend it to your new gamers friends?
Definitely. I think, the price tag can be intimidating to some people. It definitely was for me. But I think that, as long as you put in the time and you actually spend time playing the game, I think that is definitely worth purchasing and definitely worth playing. So I definitely recommend it.
All right, okay, that's what Luis said, and that is it for this week's episode. Tune in next time when we get to the conclusion of the Esports History Trilogy.
and also feature some surprises along the way, like maybe a few more interviews, deep dives into the game industry and video game genre. Maybe even talk about Final Fantasy at some point.
Okay, I'm your host, Hifa Zim.
And I'm your co-host, Lewis Larkham.
And thank you for watching Main Game. May your loot drops be nothing but uniques and essentials. Goodbye.